I hope you can't see this, but I have a pink eye. But I decided that this video needs an intro, so here you have it. Hello my fellow art lovers, Galina is here, and today I'm gonna share with you a project that was a total experiment for me. I used things that I had laying around my garage. This is not conventional acrylic pouring, first of all because it's not acrylic paint. So I had that scrap piece of particle board that I picked up at Home Depot a while ago for a few cents. I really like that industrial stamp, and I like the texture. Kind of looks like chips of wood. So I really wanted to use it for some sort of art project, and I also had leftovers of house paints. So I had those little 4 ounces jars that you were getting at Home Depot for $3. I have a jug of Floetrol. This is what I mixed my paints with. Also, I made the frame out of, I don't even know what that is. Spare part of some sort of IKEA furniture. It wasn't even my furniture. God bless my neighbors. It was sitting in their garage and they were having cleaning day. I used that to build my frame. I don't know if that makes sense, but you will see it in the step-by-step process, and I hope that it will inspire you to pick up a couple of things that you may be having in your garage or just laying around the house and repurpose it into something beautiful. Please ask questions in the comments. I will be happy to answer. And if you are an acrylic pouring artist, I know there are many of you out there on YouTube, and I admire you all. You are wonderful, and I watch your tutorials. Please don't judge me because I broke every possible rule in the acrylic pouring technique. But that's what makes it interesting, right? You just get something that has no purpose and give it a purpose. The fact that you have no idea how that's going to turn out is really exciting. Let's roll the tape and see how this project came together. I put the board on a flat surface. I should have checked if it's leveled, but I didn't. And it resulted in paint sliding over on one side ever so slightly later in the process. I mixed my paint with Floetrol. I haven't measured the ratio, I just eyeballed it to make my colors pretty fluid and roughly the same consistency. I poured, alternating darker colors and lighter colors, hoping that they will mix in the right way and will look like ocean. I poured my white at the bottom of the composition and swiped from the bottom up, from white to blue. I used thin waxed paper to swipe with, and it actually worked very well. I liked the cells that immediately appeared, but as you can see, there were some empty spots where the board showed through, so I just filled them with a little bit of paint. I tried to stretch the cells by tilting the board left and right, but it didn't quite work because house paints are actually thicker than acrylics and the surface of the board is very uneven. Then I decided to create a more organic look of foam splashing on the sand or wood chips, whatever. So I dripped some white paint along the edge of the composition, and I liked the way it looked. Here's what it looked like when I left it to dry, and here you can see my fancy shooting setup. I did a thick coat of clear epoxy, but I forgot to film it. It took a couple of days to dry, and it turned out not too shabby. And here's the IKEA spare part. If you know what it is, please let me know in the comments below. I have no idea. Sorry for the shaky camera, I was working on a wobbly folding table. Well, you saw my fancy setup. I removed the plastic joint to separate the wood planks. I will use 4 of them to build the frame. Unfortunately, the particle board I used wasn't quite square. Your eye can't really see it, but it was enough to complicate the frame building. To hide imperfections, I decided to go with a simple box frame, cutting the wood planks individually for each of 4 sides. After I cut 4 planks, I sanded the ends lightly to remove splinters. Then I glued 2 planks to the shorter sides of the board, applying an even layer of glue both to the plank and to the side of the board. I secured them with the painter's tape and left them to dry overnight. The next day, I repeated the process for the longer sides. Here's what it looked like when I left it to dry, and here is my even fancier tripod setup. When it all dried, I filled the gaps with the wood patty. And yes, wood glue is very strong and holds the frame and the picture together very well. I wanted to paint my frame white, so I taped inside the frame with a masking tape to protect the ocean, and started painting the frame. I did 3 coats of the same white paint I used for the ocean pour. I let each coat dry for at least an hour and sanded with 220 grit sandpaper in between each coat. When I removed masking tape, I found that paint bleeded on the edges, so I just cleaned it with a damp cloth wrapped around a patty knife. It's time to make a clean backing with some craft paper, and yes, I changed my clothes for this important mission. I traced the frame on the craft paper and cut out a perfect rectangle, well, mostly perfect. I applied the same wood glue all over the back of the painting and glued the paper on. I flipped the painting to let it dry under its own weight. While it was drying, I changed my clothes again for another important mission. It's time to attach the hardware. I hammered the hardware onto the particle board below the frame to lift the weight off of the frame. I used very short nails to make sure they don't poke through the ocean. And yes, that wobbly table. Our beautiful ocean pour artwork is done! I decided to hang it in the bathroom because, you know, it's ocean.